See how many times I got to start TikTok before it actually. Oh, I think it's going. Yep. Okay, we're live on TikTok. And still waiting. It says I'm streaming on YouTube, but I don't see it yet. There it is. Okay. All right. Now, yeah. Okay. See on that now on that page.
Oh yeah, I do so. Yeah.
Now, I don't think it's showing us on that page. I don't believe it is showing us Facebook comments.
Well, we only get 2 or 3 Facebook comments, and usually it's the same people over and over again. Rocky's one of them.
Yeah. Ain't nobody left on Facebook. Josh says no audio or very low on YouTube. Okay. Josh says no audio. All right. It's just you, brother. Because
I'm not live yet on YouTube, by the way.
You have to refresh.
I mean TikTok.
I'm looking at TikTok on my phone right now, so it's working.
There we are. I just had to refresh.
Make sure you got your volume turned down.
Which volume?
Anything, so that it doesn't.
I can't turn my Mac down because then that turns me down.
Okay.
So my iPad and my phone are already. So
where am I getting that audio from? Are you watching on YouTube? Do you have YouTube open?
I do not. I have TikTok and Restream open.
All right, say that again. I'm trying to figure out where this audio.
I have TikTok and Restream open, as well as the video.
It's coming through my speakers. I found it. 1, 2. All right. Check me one more time.
Check one.
Okay,
audio.
We're good.
Testing.
It was coming out of my monitor. Okay, we're good. Good evening, lunatics. We're 3 minutes early. Somebody asked, are we now on Saturdays? No, I had to go yesterday, Friday. My daughter was in this bluegrass camp thing for the week, and we had to go up and pick her up in out in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, and we didn't walk in the door till like 9:30 last night, and I was plumb wore out, so I wasn't in no shape to do a podcast. So we had to go up there and take care of her, and so now we're live on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook, and everything actually seems to be working. Yep.
That's the Trimulcast that
it is a Trimulcast
word I coined. So
I should have brought me a water. Well, there's some big news happening in trucking right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all heard or not, but Yellow is no more. Unless there is some sort of 11th hour angel investor that comes in, Yellow is done. It's over. They're going to Chapter 7 liquidate the company, and 22,000 jobs gone. And I heard something interesting. I was texting with a friend earlier today, and I didn't think about this angle. But he seems to believe that they sacrificed those 22,000 jobs to get a better deal from UPS.
Well, that's just scuttlebutt right now. So,
the thing that I wanted to talk about concerning this issue is that.
Well, hang on a second. Let's recognize our sponsor before we forget about it.
Okay, well, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Well,
it's on the screen, so
it is.
It is.
We are sponsored every week by Pittsburgh Power, which I've been a customer of since 2009. We advocate using the OPS oil purification system, bypass oil filter system, to both keep your engine oil cleaner and to lower your maintenance costs by extending your drain intervals, having a better idea of what's going on in your engine at all times because of the lab sampling part of the program. Also, anything that has emissions, EGR and up, we use their fuel-borne catalyst, max mileage fuel-borne catalyst. They also are a diesel performance shop and have all kinds of diesel performance parts. They're a Cummins and a Detroit shop, and they've got super diagnosticians on staff, including
They
a
do.
couple of electrical engineers.
They do.
So anyway, if you need anything in the way of performance or fuel mileage help on any semi truck, give them a call, and they can certainly help you out if you've got issues. They got an excellent shop there, and all of their modifications or all their tuning they do, they're all EPA approved. There's nothing there that's going to get you, excuse me, in trouble when it sticks them up your tailpipe, because everything there is EPA approved. So anyway, we appreciate you letting them know that you think that we we appreciate you letting them know that we appreciate them sponsoring the podcast, and you guys let them know that. So all right, now Chris, back to yellow.
So the thing that I wanted to discuss around this topic, I've seen lots of videos and posts on different social platforms of people that are beside themselves that this has happened. People that work for Yellow. I worked there 30 years. I'm not going to have a pension. I can't believe they did this. Nobody saw this coming. And what I want to present is just from this perspective, from this over here looking from this prism. Stevie Wonder could have seen this coming. Okay. So for everybody except the members of the union and apparently the management staff, it's like watching someone ride a horse to exhaustion and then beat it with a whip because it won't stand up. I mean, they should have been out of business in 2020. They got $700 million from Daddy. Daddy gave them a check during COVID. $700 million. $700 million. Where'd the money go? Right? I mean, the union wants to blame management, probably with good reason. Management wants to blame the union, probably with good reason. But y'all, y'all have milked this poor cow for probably 20 years longer than it should have. I mean, it's obvious they've made monumentally stupid financial decisions over the last couple decades. They bought up all these companies. Maybe they're thinking, well, if we buy up all these companies, we can afford to pay for this exorbitant labor that we've got to pay for. Okay. But at the end of the day, y'all now have killed the goose laying the golden eggs. It's dead. It's over. It no longer exists. And what frustrates me from a business person perspective is it seems like the one person nobody's talking about, the one person that makes it possible for a trucking company to haul freight, and that's the customer. And it's just, it's sad for people that are now in a position where they don't have a paycheck anymore. I don't know what's going to happen with all these pensions. I mean, surely there's got to be some sort of protection for these people, right? Or when they're done, they're done. I don't know enough about that. But
well, you said something about this in an indirect way when you were defending your decision to be an owner operator, when everybody that in your family and all your friends says, don't you want to go get a secure job?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what you should be doing here? Why are you doing this?
Yep.
And I know in a lot of the early podcasts that we did when I was explaining my background, and the very reason that was an entrepreneur, am an entrepreneur, is what these guys are dealing with right this minute, are going to be dealing with probably tomorrow morning or Monday morning. And that is when you put your future and your livelihood and your family in the hands of people that you cannot control, in my opinion, that's a mistake. We hear a lot of reasons. We ask everybody who wants to come in this program why they want to own a truck or why they want to go in business more generally. Usually that's how I ask is why do you want to be in business? And not one of them ever says what I just told you. I want freedom to do this. I want to pick my own loads. But here's a perfect example. Okay. And I'm gonna give this a label. This is the ultimate lease purchase, because what control do they have? This one guy that's beating him his chest up and down on TikTok about being there 30 years and no pension. I feel sorry for him, but everybody makes choices. Okay, everybody makes choices. When I hear these people who come to the program and they or they're in business and they leave because, my family's important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's remember this moment right here.
Yep.
And the very, very, I remember making this comment. I was watching, I was looking at my baby son in the bassinet in a house that we just bought, scared shitless about what I was, the future. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I will never work for another person that can take all this away from me again. And I didn't. And that's the fire in your belly I talk about when people want to know, how do you succeed in business? That's how you succeed, is whatever it takes you do to keep from being in this situation. Yeah, you might not get home this weekend. Yeah, you might have to buy what did that guy say last week? A cobbled together truck. All those things might have to happen. Or you could be in this guy's position or worse. I mean, this guy took 30 years to find out, but listen, there's people every day. The 401k is the biggest scam ever perpetuated. And everybody who works for another person has one of them, thinking that that's the greatest thing since sex. So this is a huge learning moment right here if people will look at it and quit defending that stupid ass union up there. This is why we do what we do. This is exactly why we do what we do for people that don't want to be in that situation.
So 401, I said somebody today, it would probably do a bunch of these folks good to pick up a couple of books on history and economics. We know that the entire idea of a benefits package came from the New Deal 100 years ago, almost.
Right.
The government literally told employers, you're not allowed to pay anymore. We are freezing, we're controlling the amount of money that you can pay people. So they had to come up with other ways of incentivizing, because if somebody builds a factory across the street, well, they can't pay you anymore. So what are they going to lure you with? Air conditioning. They're going to lure you with, let's provide you with health care. Let's provide you with this pension. What do you think the 401k was somewhat of a market answer to not have companies be on the hook for decades of legacy costs and paying for somebody until they die?
Somebody said, and it's probably true, somebody will bail that pension out. And he knew who that somebody's going to be, don't you?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be us.
Us. Okay.
Yeah, we're going
and again, and even if that's true, how is that fair?
Right.
Again, this needs to be a huge. We should tear this apart, and this should be the classic textbook reason why people need to be in business for themselves. Okay. And, I feel sorry for them in a way. I don't have a lot of sympathy for them, honestly, and two, I heard the UPS people today talk about, they're going to strike Monday if they don't get what they want. Well, how many times has that probably happened at Yellow, where they had to make some kind of a deal to keep people working, and they just kept bleeding the thing to death,
Yeah.
Look, again, if you have to have somebody else Go create your value for you. That's on you. That's a problem for you. Okay. Chris doesn't have to have an agent to represent himself for me to understand the value he brings to me. I don't have to have him pay somebody dues to represent him to do that. He can do that.
Right.
We do that to our customers. 90% of people in trucking don't understand this. Okay, we don't have to have a union negotiate our rates with our customers. We do that by the way we serve them, and by the way, we get to keep all that. We don't have to pay some ridiculous corrupt union to do that for us with the threat of labor strike if we don't get it. That's why I despise unions. Okay, I despise them so much that if I can knowingly not buy a union product, I don't, because I don't want to support that legacy.
The only experience I ever really had with working in a union, when the truck blew up in 2017, I got a job with Air Gas in Charleston. And when I interviewed, the lady was like, "No, this is a union job." And I'm like, "Oh, God." Well, it turns out Air Liquide has like, I don't know, 100,000 employees globally, and like 17 of them signed up for the union in Charleston, West Virginia. And it was such a comedy of errors where the longer I worked there, the more I understood the story, that some shakedown artist, came up there and convinced them to sign the card to join the union. And when you do that, I guess legally, it shuts everything down. So you're frozen. So they missed out like 2 years of pay raises. They missed out on stuff. The company offered them, hey, we'll even bump you up even more if you'll not do this. And it was voted in by one vote. That guy quit while I was there. But they had the same health care package as every other employee globally that worked for that corporation. But they were making less money on the hour because once they negotiated the union contract, their pay got frozen until the next negotiation, while non-union employees were getting their normal raises and were making $2 or $3 more on the hour. And the attitude is what got me the most, because they would go hide in the sort building. One guy'd go sleep in his car on the clock, on the clock. And they felt untouchable. And so then if you ask them, to produce a work product, well, it's not my job. I'm like, God, you lazy, insufferable bastards. It was because I can't go hide in the sort room. I couldn't do it, So I'm out there working, I'm out there looking for stuff to do, because if I'm going to be there, I might as well get some work done.
But you're making them guys look bad.
Oh.
And they're not going to stand for that very long.
No,
okay?
They didn't like it at all.
You'd be a scab. You'd be working while they're striking, Listen, I delivered it at a General Motors assembly plant, the one right outside St. Louis. What's it called? Wentzville? Is that what it is? I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
I delivered there for a long time. Delivered drums of seam sealer that was made right here in next town over from where I'm. That was my load out of the house. And Chris, you know me, okay? The amount of lip biting and teeth gnashing I had to go through when I went in there, because the guy who runs the forklift, if he's not there, nobody else can drive it. If he doesn't have the right kind of gloves and the union store doesn't have it, he can't drive the forklift. I got so pissed one day, I just said, "Look, I'll unload the motherfucker. Get out of my way." Well, I did it. By the time I got done, they had the union steward down there, and they were getting ready to. I just finally got in the truck and fucking left. And I called the shipper and I said, "Hey, they were not going to unload me, and I unloaded it. Here's the deal. I don't have a signature. It's too bad. Okay." And there's 10 people there standing around. And none of them go, oh, that's up mine. I can't do that. Joe's got to do that, and he's off with it. And for what? With the productivity is zero. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a big. It was on the news. It was on the network news a few years ago. Some local news guy was following union workers at the Chrysler. I think this was during the bailout. Okay, I think that's when this was going on. But some guy was following these workers around, and he followed a bunch of them. Went to lunch, parked a car nearby in a park. All of them were smoking dope. Okay, get back in their car, go back to work, and go back on the assembly line. We had video of it. He showed the boss, and it's like a news, kind of a sting kind of a thing, news kid. Well, they fired these guys. Within a week, those guys all had their jobs back because of the union. They're smoking dope on over lunch and coming back and putting cars together. And you want to know why I don't buy a union car? But that's so they can't.
You want to?
I had a good friend, one of my good friends, military guy. He was a provost marshal at the chemical plant over in Richmond, Kentucky, for about 4 years. And there's a civilian union there. And the things that he could not discipline anybody for, that in any other line of work you could fire him, you couldn't. So you have this inferior workforce handling these chemicals that can kill you. And you can't do anything about it. If they whatever, do something wrong, you can't do anything about it because of the union. So anyway,
I ordered a bunch of parts for this truck that I'm getting ready to rehab. $7,000 some dollars, and I called Friday. It's the Detroit dealer. And I said, because they can get all the different Freightliner parts. And I said, hey, what's the status on my order? And he's like, well, I'm just waiting on a few things, nuts and bolts and some stuff like that. And he said, but they had to come out of another store because they didn't have them in the PDC. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it's been like 10, 12 days since I made the order. And I said, well, what's taking them so long? He's like, well, out of all of our branches, we've got 2 of them that are union, and this is one of them. And I said, say no more.
Really? Yeah.
Say no more. I fully understand what the problem is. And that's, like you said, right? From the time I first got into, trucking business in 2011, people, why won't you just get a job? Why, get a job. Why won't you just get a job?
Not just a job, a nice, secure job.
Right.
One that you've got security.
Right. You just get a good job. Why do you want to own a truck? Well, when 15 days to slow the spread started in March of 2020, a bunch of them figured out.
15 days to flatten the curve. Let's get it right.
Well, it was both. But their tagline was 15 days to slow the spread.
Okay.
I think we're on, day 3,000 now. But everybody found out all of a sudden because all through that whole thing, I could not be coerced. I could not be made to do the things that they wanted me to do because I was in a position that I couldn't be told. There was literally no threat that could be made against me that would make me behave the way they wanted me to behave because they had no leverage. None. Zero. And so I ignored every mandate. I ignored every rule. I ignored everything through the whole thing. And there were, at that point, a lot of people were like, oh, gosh, this son of a bitch ain't near as dumb as we thought he was. Because I went through that without being coerced. And that's kind of my issue with the whole union representation thing. Like you said, I will represent myself in the marketplace. I am more than capable of representing myself, cutting my own deals, making my own contracts. I don't need likely one of the most corrupt organizations ever known to man, next to the government, the union, that are hopelessly corrupt. And so I guess when I look at it from an observer, I'm thinking, how can you believe that Sean O'Brien and Jimmy Hoffa before him How in 2023 can you look me in the face and tell me that Sean O'Brien has your best interest at heart? I think Sean O'Brien has one person's best interest at heart, and that's Sean O'Brien. Period. I don't believe for a second that he's a politician. You know, I mean, that'd be like saying, well, you know, listen, I really believe that Joe Biden cares about me. I believe that Donald Trump cares about me. Please, for the love of all that is good and kind. How can you be that delusional? Lord have mercy.
Yeah. Let's talk about something that's good, okay?
Well, we've got an event coming up in August, 19th and 20th, where we'll spend 2 days teaching you how to survive and thrive in business so that you can never be in a coercive situation. You can be the one in control of your destiny. But that comes with having a paid for truck and having a low cost of operation and all of the things that we'll teach you during this event. And we can show you that. So go to the website, blueribbonlogistics.com, click on the event page, and get signed up. You got a month, just less than a month, to get ready. And I promise you will save enough money before lunch on day one to cover the cost of your admission.
Absolutely. Now we're going to do one last time. Tonight's it. We're going to give a discount.
Oh, we are. Okay.
But this is the last one. Read my lips. This is the. Here's why. Okay, I talked to the event people yesterday. We already are at capacity the way we had the room set last year. So we're going to actually start putting in extra chairs, Chris, at each table, as many as we need now to get whatever we get between now and a month from now. So we're, I don't know that we'll ever sell out, but we're already at the tables that we have set and the way we had the room set up last year, we're beyond that. So we're going to have to make people snuggle in there a little bit. You're going to be a little more friendly with your next door neighbor going this point forward, which is why tonight is the last time we're going to offer the discount. So here's the discount. Last chance. Between now and midnight tonight, $100 off the registration fee. Last chance. And
okay,
I highly recommend that you come spend the weekend with us. We'll give you about 50 years of my business experience, about 25 years of Chris's driving experience. All the things that we have learned over the years that we've been doing all this, the networking with other people. There's a bunch of other people that are going to be there that you're going to. I find that these events typically attract the same kind of people. Let me give you an example. Well, the first one of these things I ever went to was Kevin Rutherford's what he called the Certified Master Contractor class. The first one I went to was in either 09 or 10. I can't remember which one, but you get out there and you look around and you go, wow, I see a lot of things here that I, that look a lot like me, act a lot like me in my situation. I'm not at a truck stop where everything I see is not like me. I'm at a place where everybody I look at is like me. And so there's this camaraderie that comes from that. There's this exchange of intelligence that comes from that. An exchange of knowledge and sharing, and the mastermind starts working, and as much knowledge is gained after the thing during the evening over a beer as there is during the day. So this is why we don't do it virtually. This is why we don't do it recorded and sell you a tape. The only way you get the benefit of this is to be there in person, awake. And so that's why we do it this way. And it's so much work. We only do one a year. And every year I say it's going to be my last one. And I'm probably going to say that again this year. Except this year it might actually be my last one because I'm getting a little, I'm not getting tired of them. I like doing them, but they're a lot of work. So I might have to join a union and get a better contract if I'm going to do another one, Chris. So, isn't there some kind of a
And
live
what
event union
I
can
need
get
you to
involved?
make up what code are we going to use?
I just told you, last chance.
Oh,
Last
that's
chance.
2 words.
No space.
It's one
No
word.
space.
Okay.
No space. Last chance. Actually, Chris, if I were you, I would put it in twice. One with a space, one without. And that way they won't screw it up.
I don't think I can put
That
it
way
in
either
with
one
a
will work.
space.
Well, then they
You
can't
can't
put
put
a
it in
space
with
in
a
then, probably.
and
Okay.
it will. Okay. Well, listen. I'll do that, and we'll see if it actually works. And but I guess if they figure it out, they'll be good with it.
Nope,
Okay,
not freedom.
I'm working on it.
We got any comments here? Somebody's approved to drive for Landstar. Let me look and see if I can catch up. Mercer trying to decide. Well, they're both fine. Are you going to be van or flatbed? Answer that first, and I'll answer your question. Where is this event? This event is in Hurricane, West Virginia, which is halfway between Charleston and Huntington on I-64. Outstanding facility, outstanding hotel. We have truck parking there, so you can stay in the hotel or you can stay in your truck, whichever one you want to do. Bought a truck cash. First thing I should do is make this truck last.
Josh said the code should be not yellow. Let's see here. I want to see what this looks like on the screen now. I figured out how to put it on the code should be not yellow. Larry, are you still selling accounting classes? No.
I will take on accounting clients. I don't really sell a class, okay, but I will take on you as a client. Maybe we'll talk, but reach out to me and I'll set up an interview with you. So,
let's see. I think there was
there is going to be a certain amount of accounting at this event. Now, last year we did a completely separate class. But I'm going to include a lot of that in the main class this year, and we're not going to deal so much with the software, but just with the need and the benefit of the data. And so we'll get in, and not specifically to QuickBooks or anything like that. It's just the why do accounting, why do bookkeeping, why keep numbers. We'll talk about that, and then if you want to get with me and talk specifically about QuickBooks or something like that, then I can certainly do that.
So Big Rig down south on TikTok that was asking about Landstar and Mercer. He also said it says turned in the lease, bought a truck cash. First things I should do to make this truck last. Go to blueribbonlogistics.com/truck. And I have a complete list of all of the lunatic things that you can or should do to a truck. They're all listed there. But, OPS, fleet air filter, Pittsburgh power damper and balancer, go through and redo put all new shocks on it. Find someone that does, like, go to Jim Fowler in Michigan, go to Chad Hone in Kansas City, go to Rocky Rockefeller, North Florida, MD Alignment. Let them get your bearings set correctly. Make sure that the truck's driving straight. You're probably going to need bushings. They all do. They're all wore out. Torque rods. That's all the stuff that's going to save you, tenths of a mile per gallon, but over time is going to save you a lot of money. And then he also said van. So with being a van, I would probably go Landstar over Mercer.
I would too. Now, I have a lot more Landstar experience, but I do have had one driver that was a van at Mercer. I didn't like it because he couldn't stack loads.
I thought he was a flatbed.
No, he was a van. No, he's not. He's a van.
Okay.
But he could, especially as a new driver, you can't stack loads. And then two, they've got this seniority. At Landstar, you pick your loads. Okay, there's no restriction. I mean, the newest guy in the company, the oldest guy in the company, all have the same load board. But at Mercer, that's not. Now, again, my information may be dated because it's been a year or two since I've done this. But I went to orientation with him, and I, learned enough to know that I'm glad I stayed at Landstar. And the primary reason is because, again, I'm going to use this word freedom that everybody wants to use, but I don't have the flexibility there to run my business the way I do at Landstar. We can never do what we do at Mercer because we don't have the ability to make some decisions that we make here, particularly in load selection. So both are good companies. I know a lot of guys. When I went to CMC, it's funny. There were probably between 350 and 500 people there eventually, towards the end. And out of those, let's just say 400, we're using the middle, 25% of them were Landstar, 25% were Mercer, and the other 50% was every other company in the country. So both of those companies were well represented there, and the people that I met there from both those companies were class acts, okay, one percenters. So, but again, Mercer typically is a flatbed oriented company, in my opinion. Now, I may be way wrong, but my experience with my driver that I had there in a van was that we were really, really, really restricted in. You kind of almost have a load planner there for you, or dispatcher, or whatever you want to call it. At first, I think as you gain seniority, you get a little more ability to choose your own things. But that wouldn't work for me. So, but and two, if you come to Landstar, you can work with us. We can coach you, we can mentor you, and so we can. I won't do that at Mercer. So that'd be enough reason for me to choose that. So, are we hiring drivers? Well, we don't ever hire drivers. User 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not what we do here. We had a long conversation today with a young man who wanted a driving job, and he wanted it very, very bad.
He
but
did.
We don't do that. So we look for people who are good drivers because we don't run a driving school, and those people who don't want to be working for Yellow in 30 years and not have the pension, who want to take control of their own situation and run their own business, but do it correctly and do it in a way that will survive the bloodbath that's going to come again in the next 10 years or whatever the next one is. Whatever happens next year, fuel goes back up to 7. But all those things, those are not reasons to put people out of business if you have the proper business model. It puts people out of business who shouldn't be in the business to begin with. Okay.
Right.
And I would probably put Yellow in that category. Okay. They probably fall in that same category as a BCO or an owner operator that was not ready to be in business, because they made a lot of stupid decisions here, as I can tell. But if that's your situation and you want to learn business and how to get in business and how to stay in business, and then understand that buying that truck is the same as walking down the street and opening up a restaurant, no different, then yeah, we'll hire you. We'll give you a job for 18 months. A real job with a W-2, not this 1099 garbage that we had to deal with again today.
Mm-hmm.
I love these guys. Oh, I work for a great guy. He puts me on 1099. And I'm thinking to myself, great guy and 1099 can't be in the same sentence. Okay, that's
Right.
impossible. So if they don't understand that, we have plenty of material about that. Go look it up. But to get back to your question, no, we're not looking to hire truck drivers. If Chris and I had to hire truck drivers and deliver freight, we wouldn't be doing this. What we do is take good people who know how to do that, and know how to do that, but want to learn how to do it in their own business for the right reason, and the right reason being serving the customer. So if that's the case, yeah, we will be happy to talk to you. What are you saying no about?
Oh, I was agreeing with you. I need to. I need to put that
behind on my comments here. No, we do not record the event. Like I told you before, the event only works in person. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's a lot of things that we can talk about there in 2 days that we can't talk about in an hour on a podcast. And we go into much more depth, but recording it is not what makes that weekend work. Okay, we have 172 or 171 podcasts right now recorded, average 2 hours. That's 350 hours of knowledge, information. I bet if you listen to all those, you're going to probably hear every word you're going to hear at that weekend.
Right.
But that's not how it works. That's not how it works. It's being in that room together. The magic that comes from everybody being in there together. And that only happens when it's live. And so that's why we don't do it. I mean, look, we could have made a fortune on selling tapes and books and programs and shit, but that's not what we want to do. That's not at all what we want to do. So it's just we do it once a year. We have a limited number of people that can come, and we give those people everything we can. Okay, it's just like our program. We have 11 trucks right now. Okay, we can't take 40 people or 100 people or Yellow's 22,000 drivers. I can't help any of them, but I can help the 11 that come here and stay with me for 18 months. I can turn those guys into millionaires. Okay, and
I
I
have
can't do that
I have a
for
quick
a vast
question I
number
need
of
to
people.
interject. Is your computer going through Wi-Fi or is it going through an Ethernet cable?
It's going through Wi-Fi.
Okay. Because once you get to talking, your video and audio are out of sync. That's why I was.
I can't do Wi-Fi right now because of our construction. I have to do Ethernet. I can't. My Ethernet. I said that backwards. My Ethernet cable is not where I'm sitting anymore.
Oh,
So and my router is not where I am. So I have to do Wi-Fi until I get the house built. So
gotcha. Okay.
2 more months, guys. August, September. We should be end of September, 1st of October. We should be in. So
Party at Larry's.
God, please come. Really.
Christopher Robin. On average, how long does it take Landstar's trailer utilization department to find a van trailer for a BCO? If you're a new
You want
hire,
the official answer? You
if
want the
you're
official answer
well,
or
the
real
official answer is 3 days. That's horseshit. If you're a new BCO, you coming out of orientation, you are priority.
and it takes that long with a priority individual. Let us tell you about if you take a vacation and give your trailer up or something like that. Ask us about how long that takes. Okay.
I have seen it take.
Gonna,
I've seen it take a week.
yeah.
I've heard horror stories of it taking 10 days. It's supposed to be 3 business days.
Right.
I'm wondering I'm wondering if some of these horror stories we're not getting the full detail, that maybe they've gone out and tried to book a power only load or something, because they will yank you off the list. And this subject almost got me in a fist fight one day that Larry got me out of, because I was trying to explain to an individual, like, expecting me to sit and make no money while I'm waiting for a trailer, I think is kind of dumb. But yet, if you are on the trailer list and you take like a power only load, they will yank you off of that trailer list and you have to go right back on it, which I think is just nonsense. But if I, knowing what I know now, I'd get on the board. I'd be looking for SOS loads, which is where a truck is broke down, and try to get a trailer that way.
If you're willing, some of these guys come here and they're prima donnas. Okay, I'm not deadheading for that trailer. If you're willing to drive, you can find a load that's being repowered, and by repowering it, you get to keep the trailer. Now, you may have to drive 500 miles to get there, but believe me when I tell you this, it's worth, from number one, they'll give you the fuel money, okay? But to get a trailer tomorrow and be making money, driving 500 miles, that's I would do that in a minute. So it just depends on how hard-headed you want to be when you come here. Because if you expect to get paid $5 a mile for everything you do, you're going to sit. So, and you're going to sit after you get a trailer too, by the way. So.
And that brings me to where did I see this comment? Was it on TikTok or was it on... somebody was asking about platform. I think it was in. Anyway, they were asking about platform freight. Was it slow? Oh, here it is. I've heard the platform was super slow at Landstar. Is it true? Or Josh's Trucking Adventures is paying attention. Or is it from guys who want $8 a mile? We have 2 trucks on platform right now. We have a Conestoga, a flatbed Conestoga, and we have a step deck. And while it seems to be challenging to keep them running, we haven't really had a problem keeping them running, right? So, of course, we have the best flatbed dispatcher probably at Landstar. So
not just
that helps.
dispatcher, but consultant. I mean,
Yeah.
he teaches these. Again, we've got guys that are here learning how to work at Landstar. Some of them have flatbed experience and want to do that when they leave our program and go to Landstar. So we've got 2 or 3. We actually are adding a third trailer this week. We've got 3 trailers. We have a flatbed, a 53-foot flatbed. What's our step deck, Chris? Is it a 53 step deck?
No,
48
51.
step deck?
51.
51 step deck. And we got a Conestoga. So we have, one of each of these trailer types that we can give somebody a chance to learn, be in the program, and do it in a platform at Landstar, working with the best guy at Landstar, literally. And by the way, he will be at the event. Okay. And so, that's kind of on a seniority basis with us. But remember, guys are only here 18 months. So, those guys rotate out and we have another opportunity. We also have a guy who's watching tonight who's very interested in buying trailers. And so we may have some more trailers now that he sees what they pay. So, he just jumped in, by the way. No Richie Matthews.
It's with
Larry
great sadness. It's great
Larry
sadness
does not like Jack Daniels.
that we have to fire Richie Matthews. It's been
no shit.
It's been a great run for him, but just bring a truck on back. No, Larry does not love Jack Daniels.
No, that's rot gut. Okay. What liquors do you need? Anything from Buffalo Trace? That's my go-to. Jefferson, any of the Jeffersons, the Ocean or the Reserve or any of those. Listen, all bourbon's good. It's kind of like sex. Some's better than others. Okay, and there's not any bad. It's all just, is it good or better? So. Will I do a seminar? I'll tell you what, I will do one at the bar on Saturday night. At
Friday night.
Okay. No, not on Friday night. We'll be doing
on Saturday night.
Friday night.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Saturday night. So I'll be doing. I'll do one if you want. Plus, my private reserve is there too, by the way. So
yeah, he loves to talk about bourbon.
And I'm going to bring some more that they don't have. I'm going to bring some of my special private reserve. If I see my son between now and then, we will rock your world. Okay, so what I might do is I might get Chris to come on at an event or at a podcast, and we'll do a little bourbon one if you want to.
There you go. That sounds like a great idea.
And he's got a neighbor that, he can talk about bourbon till your eyes glaze over. Okay, he knows 10 times what I know. But anyway.
Oh yeah. So I've got to dig in. I got some information the other day. I'm going to dig into this automatic restriction thing because I got some information the other day that leads me to believe that it's not near as difficult to get an auto restriction removed as we once thought it did, and not anywhere near as expensive. But I've got a lot of digging to do yet to find that out, because had people been told $2,500 and $3,000. You got to start all over. That's bullshit. Okay, you need to find someone that's a qualified examiner that can give you the test in a manual vehicle. But I'm going to get to the bottom of this, because we run into people like this all the time that get these godforsaken automatic transmission restrictions. And of course, nobody tells you, talk about slavery, nobody tells you ahead of time what's happening to you when you get one of these stupid things. But I'm going to get that figured out, because I hate it. TikTok, somebody's asking about auto. Is an auto bad? The thing about automatics, it's an extra level of risk that a new business does not need the burden of, right? That's our thing about automatics. These new automatics, they're slick. I drove, where did I go last time? Oh, I went and picked up Josh's truck with an automatic, that D12. And listen, man, it's nice. It's nice to drive a truck and not have to shift gears. But the risk level that comes with that, my daughter's 17, and we're going to be looking for her a car. And I've told her, I said, listen, you need to learn how to drive a manual and have your first car be a manual, because manual transmissions break a whole lot less than automatics do. Generally, it's a clutch. And even with a big truck, a clutch is $3,000 or $4,000 at the most. But it's just a level of risk that you don't need to have in a new business. Right. Now, if you have your business has survived and you've got some money and you can calculate that risk and say, okay, I'd like to have an automatic truck and I've got, an extra 10 grand sitting here just in case. Go ahead. Yeah. Get you one.
Yeah. You got to remember, our market is the first time truck buyer doing this the very first time. And we don't recommend that because it just like we don't recommend the emissions, because it introduces another level of risk that they don't have to take on if they choose not to. And so that's why we don't do it. Plus we also we're totally against these schools that let people go through the class and put an auto restriction on their license, because that's like a tramp stamp that you can't take off very easily, and there's no reason to do it. It's no reason to do it, I mean, it just limits your ability to your options.
Mm-hmm.
So I do not recommend it, in our situation, because now again, like you said, you're established, you've been in business for a few years, and you want to buy an upgrade truck and you want an automatic, and you've got the money to do it. There is no risk if you've got money. Okay, there is no risk. But if you don't, and you can't handle, and even with the warranty, believe me, warranties to me are worthless because they don't pay you for your lost income. So if you can sit in a dealership for a week or two, when nobody can figure out how to work on that, because that's where you're going to take it when it breaks down. You're not going to take it to any of these little shops that we can go to all the time. You're going to the dealership, and you're going to sit in the waiting room with all the other guys in there who have these trucks and have been there for a week ahead of you. So that's what you're dealing with. That's why we don't recommend them, because people that get in business can't afford that situation, that scenario. So
John Doe 74 says, I don't know how to drive a clutch. Well, it's one of the easiest things that you can do. I mean, you can figure it out. Somebody can teach you. But, look, when I started, that's all there was. I drove the very first, when it came out, I want to say in 2000, the Eaton Auto Shift came out. It had a clutch pedal, and then it just electronically shifted the gears. I didn't mind that one as much. They had a lot of problems with that XY shifter. But at least you had the clutch pedal. The biggest thing that I don't like about the automatic, solely from a driver's perspective, is like trying to slide tandems. You can hurt that clutch with that automatic trying to get tandems to slide. And some of the trucks now, I guess now they all just about all have a creep mode. But we had a damn what was that? Kenworth. God almighty. What a nightmare to try to back that stupid thing into a dock or into a hole, because you're trying to just breathe on the gas pedal. And then all of a sudden you're going 7 miles an hour backwards. It was awful.
Right. On the drive line now, by the way, too.
Oh, yeah.
I just saw something that I can't compute, okay? Jim Callahan learned to drive a manual on a Harley. Now, I just can't put Jim Callahan on a Harley for some reason.
I need to see Jim Callahan on a Harley.
I do. If there's no video or pictures, it didn't happen, okay? Jim, no video, no pictures. I'm not buying
it. Jim said, I've got a 2020 with no regens. Yet, Jim is the operative word. Yet. Now, if you're running the Catalyst, maybe not.
Run the Catalyst, yeah. Do a diesel force clean every 2 years and run the Catalyst, and you might keep that streak up. So,
listen, I might have told this before, but when I was driving for Schneider in 2007 or so, I went to one of these Georgia Pacific big, huge drop yards, and they make you slide the tandems all the way to the rear. Well, I tried everything, and the damn thing wouldn't come loose. And it wasn't the air kind; it had the handle. I got to handle that, but the pins would not release. And the guy said, well, go down here and turn right. There's a railroad track. Maybe you can, bounce a little bit on that railroad track and get it to come loose. I thought, okay. So I drive down, take a right, make a U-turn. Well, I got that thing up to about 7th gear. And right about the time I hit that railroad track, I just reached up and grabbed that trolley valve and yanked it down. And the trailer brakes locked up, and that trailer started bouncing. And when I hit that railroad track, that thing come loose and shot to the rear, and it sounded like a bomb went off. Well, I was satisfied with myself that I had got it done. And as I walked around to the truck, this short little woman, about 4'5", she walks out of the guard shack that was right beside where my trailer tires had come loose. And she was holding her chest. She said, son, I thought I was gone. I thought Jesus gonna come take me home. I bet she thought that son bitch was coming through that door on her. Oh gosh.
I bet. Somebody asked you about my liquor, my go-to. Here's my favorite. Okay, if y'all want to know what my favorite is, this is Blanton's. Okay, so this is my absolute favorite. See the little horse at the top?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'll set that right here in case you need to be reminded of that. What else we got?
I'm looking through the comments.
So you stirred up. I know. I went and looked at your short you did. You stirred up some shit on.
I did
on the internet.
Well, technically, you were the one that did most of the talking. I'm only the guy that uploaded it to the internet. So, I mean, if we're going to talk about who's stirring what shit up,
well,
I'm just the delivery mechanism,
Did we ever get that one that Josh said this needs to be a short? That we marked?
Oh, that one.
I don't remember where it was.
No, it was from that episode. I've got them. I've got clips from that episode 169 posted up through like July 1st. But I think Tuesday is going to be the one that opens up the floodgates because you had some things to say about unions. It's perfect timing. So,
how about tonight? The ultimate lease purchase.
That is a good one. That is a good one.
Sometimes I surprise myself, Listen, learn how to shift gears and drive and use a clutch. That's just a little muscle memory, okay?
Christopher says I'm on the I'm on the Landstar board looking at SOS loads, and I see one that says requires TRNSLD. That means transload. So that means it's probably on a BCO owned trailer.
And you're not going to get to keep the trailer, so pass.
Or the trailer has been damaged some way, and it could be a Landstar trailer that's been damaged. We had one a few weeks ago. It caught on fire or something. And, I sent that team after it. It was a load of fireworks, and the damn thing had caught on fire.
It wasn't us. We went and rescued one.
Yeah. So if you see requires transload, you'd have to have a trailer.
You're not going to get a trailer out of that. So pass. So.
Yeah, that's a pass.
Even
but now the repower people down there in Jacksonville are pretty sharp. So if you call them and say, look, hey, I'm on the list, and if something pops up within 500 or 600 miles of me, they will absolutely put you on speed dial, because it can be a nightmare getting a load repowered.
But do not let Trailer Utilization know that you're looking for a repower, or they will take you off their list. So careful there.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Don't say anything you don't have to say. So.
How many trucks do we run under Landstar? We have 11 in the system right now, and we're getting ready to add.
We've got about 4 more in the wings.
3, 4. Yeah. So we should be probably by the end of the year 15 or 16 total.
Yeah. That's right. Unless Josh decides to go buy 10 more trucks,
Right.
So.
I was trying. Wasn't there some Landstar drama this week?
Well, Ronnie had and Amy Williams kissed him made up.
Oh, they did. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
They did. Yeah.
No, I was thinking there was something I saw this week. I always forget to like screenshot these things, especially the good ones because they get taken down by the admins. But regardless of let's do it this way. Regardless of what the particular amount of drama was, the general underlying problem is basically disdain for the customer, be that the agent, carrier, broker, whoever it is, not understanding that that you're a servant, right? You are not the customer. When you own a truck, you are not the customer. You are the servant of the customer. And so there's lots of times that it's going to require you to do things that you may not want to do in order to serve that customer. But if you'll put the customer first, which is part of my big issue with Yella and the union right now, they're so busy pointing fingers at each other. And once it got to a head, the customers, like, even if they don't strike on Monday, well, they go home. All of their customers have basically bailed. So if you're not going to be in business to serve customers, there's really no point in you being in business. It completely defeats the purpose. And if you'll, and I see this one a lot, well, I had a problem on this load and, well, I'm losing my next load. Well, listen, the load you're on is the only one that matters. Here's one from this week. We had a load. It wasn't a great load, but it was a preloaded trailer going to a store to be delivered. And about 2 minutes after we arrived at the shipper, we get a phone call from the agent. Hey, we can't unload this Wednesday like you planned on it. They can't unload it till Thursday. Well, this load did not pay enough to be a 2-day load. So I talked to the agent and I said, well, is coming off the load an option? She's like, yeah, that's an option. We'll find somebody else. I said, okay. So I searched. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing within 200 miles of hooking to. So I called the store and I said, hey, what's going on? And he said, well, they scheduled 2 deliveries at one time, and this is a retail store, so they don't have a big warehouse. And he's like, we literally cannot accept 2 trucks on the same day. We don't have the room. I said, okay. So I understand that there's a legitimate problem here. I didn't have a better option. And there was going to be no layover pay. There was no extra anything because the customer couldn't care less. I'm sure their contract is worded in such a way as to make sure that they're covered in situations like this. So I said, look, we're going to stay on the load. I did my best to, call and be nice to the guy. I wasn't a jackass. And he was good back to me. And so they ended up getting us unloaded about 6 hours earlier than they had originally planned. And I still think, did that truck hit the,
what,
no, he was about $1,800 off for the week. But the point I wanted to make with this is, when you're in business, you're going to have bad weeks. Trucks are going to break down. Loads are going to cancel. You're going to get stuck in weather. When you do have the opportunity to run that extra load, you better run it. When you do have that opportunity to get somewhere early, you better be there early. When you have the opportunity to get good fuel mileage, because it's not 197 degrees with 300% humidity. Our entire fleet fuel mileage is in the gutter this week. But it was hotter than the hubs of hell everywhere, and they're not going to shut the trucks off when it's 110 degrees outside. So everybody's fuel mileage is down about 1 mile per gallon except one guy. That stuff's going to happen, right? And you can't control it. You can't control when it's too cold. You can't control when it's too hot. You can't control the traffic. You can't control a load canceling. You can't control a breakdown. But when there are not things out of your control, you better get up on that horse and ride. You better make hay while the sun shines. And, that's the thing that I want to try to get through to everybody is that you have to work when it's available for you to work, because the things out of your control are going to happen, and there's not a damn thing you're going to do about it. And if you were running at 50% speed when you could have been running at 100, it could be a situation where when that breakdown happens or that weather event happens and that be the thing that puts you out of business, nobody to blame but yourself.
Man, it's been a slow week on the Facebook groups at Landstar. There's been really no excitement. Somebody in their personal car passed a truck that's got the placards on wrong, but other than that, I can't find anything that's even to even talk about.
Let's see. More TikTok question. When was it you talked about unions? I would love to listen. Episode 169. I've got some shorts. They're on YouTube and TikTok both. I think that one's scheduled to hit TikTok on Tuesday. So that'll be perfect because it'll be the day after the strike. How can I get on Walmart account at Landstar? What's that code? LLA? LL something. There's two agents. Well, this was years ago. At one time there were two agents. This may not be the case now, but there were two agents. There was an agent that handled Walmart in Texas, and then there was an agent that handled Walmart everywhere else. LLA, I think, is the one that handles the Walmarts. But just always remember, right, when you're on Walmart, you're not guaranteed anything. I was going to do it in like 16 or 17, something like that. Maybe it was 15. I was literally on my way to Grove City, dropped my trailer at the place they told me to drop it, and before I got out of the parking lot, they called me and said, hey, it's canceled. They canceled everything. And I'm like, oh, turn around and hook back up to my trailer and book the load. So it's not some kind of set deal. It's good while you got it. Does Landstar have an age limit for trucks? No. It only has to.
Well, only if it has to have an ELD.
Right.
So it can't have a mechanical engine.
Right. So that probably 93 to 95, somewhere in there. But as long as it has an electronic engine and it has a port you can connect an ELD to, and it passes a DOT inspection. Is it possible for the megas to base their operation in a border town and hire all Mexican drivers in Mexican tag trucks? They can hire drivers and mechanics for less. Is there a limit on my best advice to you on that topic would be to turn off the television. Is there a pilot program that allows Mexican trucks in the U.S.? Yes. Are they paying Mexican drivers less than they're paying U.S. drivers? Possibly. Are there enough of them to even make a dent in the market and affect you as a driver? Absolutely, unequivocally, 100% no. Turn off the television. We should be able to cross that border at 75 miles an hour without cracking the throttle.
You don't do that?
Well, I mean, I ran into a Mexican team truck. We had to talk through a translator app in New Jersey, and we had a little brief 10-minute conversation. It was frustrating because I'm having to type into a damn app, because I'm 47 years old, raised in a country that has a significant Spanish-speaking population, but they made damn sure that I can't speak a word of Spanish. And again, let me hit this real quick, because when the Knight Swift acquisition of U.S. Express went through, what was that, 2 weeks ago? I'm seeing these people in these comment sections. Oh, they're going to have 25,500 trucks. Oh my God, they're going to have a monopoly. Can I suggest that you bring up our friend, the BSE 9000, and there's about 3 million trucks on the road. And if you'll just take 3 million, okay, and you'll divide it by 25,000, which would give you take 25,000 and divide by 3 million. That's what you get. 0.008. So if you move the decimal point 2 places to get a percentage, that's 0.8%. It's not even 1% of the entire market. So I don't know. I mean, if y'all can teach me how 1% can become a monopoly, I'll listen to you. But it's just nonsense. You know, all of the carrier, all of them, every 500 truck plus company added all together is less than 15% of the entire industry. Chris, when you were driving booking loads, were you using your phone or laptop in the truck? If laptop, what kind of setup did you use? I stopped using a laptop in probably 16, because at first Landstar Online did not play well with Mac iOS, the iOS browser Safari, but they got that fixed in 16, something like that. And so at that point, I went exclusively iPad and iPhone. Then Landstar 1 came out, and then it's bouncing back and forth. So here at my desk, I've got two 27-inch monitors, and I've got my phone and I got my iPad set up. And so when I'm looking for loads, I'll have Landstar 1 open because it will search by age. When I have it up on my screen, I can't search by age. I can search by revenue, I can search by mileage, I can search by rate per mile, or sort. But on Landstar 1, I can sort by age, so I can see the newest loads. So that's handy because especially if I'm in a pinch, if something's happened, I'm looking for a load right now, I don't need to call on a load that's been on the board for 8 damn days. That's a complete waste of time. So I can search through Landstar 1, but so as of now, I use both. And if I was in the truck, I would still use both. So there's features of the online that I like, and there's features of Landstar 1 that I like, and I bounce back and forth from one to the other.
And there is a new load board that you can only get on Landstar Online, and it's in the capacity portal in beta mode right now. So,
well, you talk about weeping.
And that will let you check.
You talk about weeping and gnashing of teeth. When they release that new capacity portal, Facebook is going to melt down. And every time they make a change, generally for the better, I mean, I can't think of a time that there's been a change on Landstar Online that hasn't gotten better. But, oh, my God, they are going to lose their ever-loving minds when they drop this new capacity. Because, there's a bunch of them. What's it been up for 6 months, the beta? And there's a bunch of them haven't even. I bet it's longer than that.
Because I was in Vegas where was I? I was in Fishers, the Indianapolis BCO days.
Yeah.
That's when I met with Ty.
That's been about a year.
By the way, I've got a meeting with Ty set up this week. He's using me as the fleet beta guy. So.
Oh, okay.
Fleet stuff. So.
Do we help Landstar drivers book loads for fees beside your truck? Yes. If you go to blueribbonlogistics.com, click on BCO mentoring, our mentoring program is there. We have different levels. We have dispatch, we have mentoring, accounting, all that kind of stuff. So you can go to blueribbonlogistics.com, click on BCO mentoring, and let me make sure there's a... Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it's at the top. Click on BCO mentoring, and the whole program's there, and it will explain how that works.
It's the fifth button down on the on the webpage.
Leonard Burnett, thanks for recommending the audiobook, The Box. Excuse me, that's a fantastic book. If you really want to get a good understanding and historical context of how the industry got to where we are, go read Mark Levinson's book about the shipping container. It's fantastic.
Every truck driver should have to read that to get a license, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, they'd have to know how to read, but Um, did I say that out loud?
You did. You
Okay.
did.
I wish my truck could go over 65. Burns too much fuel. You don't need to
Yeah.
go over
Why?
65.
What would be the reason for that?
so you can pass the guys going 63 7 times a day.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about the big carriers, they become this scapegoat for people to blame their own failures on. If you see a problem, oh well, it's Schneider's fault. It's it's this one's fault, it's that one's fault. So it's like this union and yellow thing, just sniping back and forth at each other, completely oblivious to the actual economic consequences of their decisions.
I tell you something I need to do.
What do you need to do?
I need to correct something I've said in the past that I will no longer say.
Oh, well, go ahead. The floor is
Well,
yours.
let's get back. Let's get on this subject of lease purchasing for a second. We
Okay.
all know what our position on that, because I have said in talking about lease purchases that never ever 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 lease purchase a truck from a carrier. But it might be okay occasionally or in a certain situation to lease a truck from a leasing company.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had some dealings this week with a leasing company,
Yes, you did, didn't you?
and I'm going to re-examine that what I said, because I felt like I needed to wash my hands and take a shower after I got off the phone with these people. I felt like I probably needed to go get a vaccination of something, because I can't explain to you the frustration that I had, and the disbelief. 'Cause here, let me give you a little bit of background. We hired a guy that was working for another fleet, and he had his own truck and trailer, and things weren't working out. And I mean, it's not unusual. He bought a truck and trailers, paid too much money for them. The things worked fine in 21. And then last year things didn't work anymore. So he came to us, and he this is the 53-foot trailer, by the way, that we're just adding on. Okay, so I talked to him, and because we're kind of looking for some flatbed stuff, and so I agreed to take over his payments and get him out from under that trailer, and we would just I'd buy it, and we would put it on the fleet here and let him drive it, let him pull it. So he called the leasing company, and he told them what we're going to do, and they verbally told him on the phone, "Oh, no problem. No problem. Yeah, he can just let him pay you, and you continue to pay us. We're going to leave you on the lease." And I thought, well, whatever. I don't really care. So we start trying to get the trailer on at Landstar so we can start using it. And Landstar calls me and points. First of all, they asked me for a copy of the full lease, and I didn't even have one. So I got a hold of him and got a lease. They called me like 5 o'clock the next day, and they said, "Look, you can't do what you're doing." I said, "What do you mean you can't do what you're doing?" They said, "Look, paragraph 18, sentence B, strictly forbids the leaseholder here to sublet that equipment or any part of it to anybody else." I said, "But they told him on the phone they could do it." And they said, "Well, I'm sorry, but legal says no because the contract says you can't." So I try to intervene on his behalf. And I said, "Look, just put me on the lease, okay? And take him off of me on it." "We can't do that." I said, well, then give me a new lease." "Oh, we can't do that." Well, so what can we do?" Like, "Well, we can either repossess it or you can pay it off." So I start looking at the numbers, and this, I don't know what the trailer's worth today. I'm guessing it's probably worth about $25,000. But the total payments of that lease were going to be $55,000. Okay, and it's a 2013 53-foot flatbed. I don't know.
Tell them how you got the payoff number. How do you
Well,
go about getting the payoff?
So I asked about the payoff. They said, well, we can't tell you the payoff over the phone. We have to send you a letter. And for first of all, they couldn't send it to me because I'm not the customer. They had to send it to the lease person. So we get the payoff, okay? And I'm looking at it, and the payoff, the letter, to get a payoff letter, it's $70. To get a payoff letter. So I mean, I just it just makes you feel like you're dealing with a drug dealer, okay? Don't lease vehicles. Don't go. Just pay. Save your money and pay cash. Okay. That trailer, you probably could have bought it for half that. You know,
Oh yeah,
um,
100%.
and not dealt with. I mean, and you should have read this lease. I mean, it just took away my compromise that maybe it might be okay to buy equipment from a leasing company or lease equipment for a leasing company. But now I'm totally against that now as well. So
I did. You know what? I just thought of something. I did have an experience that I wanted to share with the audience this week. We went up Thursday to Elkins, West Virginia, to pick up my daughter, and we went up early so we could watch some of the. They had a showcase and they had a concert with all the instructors, and so we're sitting in this big dining hall, and my wife goes, "Well, there's Bela Fleck and his wife." Now, if you don't know who Bela Fleck is, maybe it's Bela Fleck. Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. He's a famous kind of fusion jazz bluegrass banjo player. And if you're a music nerd like me, you end up in wormholes like this with a guy like Bela Fleck. So I went up to him, and I always hate doing that when you're around some famous person because you feel kind of sleazy because I feel like they just want to be left the hell alone. But I said, hey,
they do, by the way.
they do, yeah. I said, hey,
Yes.
you guys played a role, and you're probably not aware of this, but you played a role in a very significant, life-changing event in my family's life, and that got their attention, and they're like, okay, well, go ahead and tell it. When my truck blew up in April of 2017, we were broke and destitute. I had $300 to my name. We did a little GoFundMe kind of thing, and people really, really showed up and donated a ton of money to us to get us out of we were able to survive through Christmas of, I'm sorry, it wasn't in 17, it was in 15, the first time it happened. We were able to get through Christmas because of people's gifts. Well, I think we were in January, and we had been given so much money by people. We were still $2,500 short of making it through the end of the month, but I was keeping my mouth shut. I'm like, I can't ask for more money at this point because people have clearly done way more than they absolutely ever should have to help us. So I kept my mouth shut, didn't say anything about it. So my daughter had fiddle lessons on Tuesdays, and my mom and dad were like, "Well, we're going to take y'all to the Chinese restaurant." And we're like, "Okay." So my wife comes to the Chinese restaurant from the fiddle lesson with at that time, I guess it was 11-year-old, and she drops an envelope down in front of me, and I'm like, "Okay, what's this?" And so I open it up, and it was two $1,250 checks from Bela Fleck's mother-in-law just dropped out of the sky. And so I got to, in person, pass along our thanks and gratitude to him and his mother-in-law and his wife and everything. It was a really cool experience, because we absolutely did not deserve the kind of help that we were getting at that point because we had killed the goose laying the golden eggs, kind of like some people we've been talking about on this show,
Right.
But that was just a cool experience. So, Bela Fleck and his family, they're good people. So I'm glad that we got to do that.
Good. That's nice. I was going to talk about something else, and now I've completely forgot about it.
Colby Thompson, yes, you do have to have a hazmat endorsement to apply. Well, let me give you the technical answer. You don't
Not
have to
true.
have a hazmat endorsement to apply. if a Landstar will bring you on if you qualify with everything else and give you 90 days to get your hazmat
You
endorsement.
have to have applied.
You
You have to
have
have applied
yeah.
for them.
You've got to have the background check done and the fingerprints and all that stuff, but you don't technically have to have the endorsement. However, if you're going to come into our fleet, we demand that you have the endorsement before you get here, because trying to dispatch a driver that does not have a hazmat endorsement is a nightmare that I am no longer willing to encounter. So if you want to be in the Blue Ribbon fleet, you have to have your hazmat on your license, in your possession, by the way. Been down that damn road.
When you come to orientation.
Yeah, before you come to our orientation. If you just want to be a BCO, they'll let you come on and give you 90 days. But you can't pull any hazmat freight, obviously. And let me also say, just for a moment, because I see occasionally, well, it's stupid. If I got my own truck, why? Listen, Landstar knows better, okay, than to let people in the fleet that don't have hazmat. Because what's going to happen is some truck driver is going to be in an area where there's no freight, and they're going to see a high-paying hazmat load, and they're going to lie about having hazmat, and they're going to hook to that trailer, and then everybody is in 12 feet of deep shit. So that's why they require, hey, you don't have to pull hazmat if you don't want to pull hazmat. You're a fool if you don't, but you don't have to. But if you want to be in this fleet, you will have hazmat before you show up.
And there's really no reason to be afraid of hazmat. We got the hazmat department. Landstar is the best department in there. So if you do what they say and send them the paperwork and send them a picture of the trailer before you leave, and they sign off on it, you're good to go. You're absolutely golden. But now, if you leave there and you listen to what the shipper tells you, and the road pirate stops you down the road, or worse than that, you have some type of a hazmat incident, and you didn't check with Landstar, and the shipper gave you one placard, and Landstar says, nope, that's not the right one, and the road pirate says, nope, that's not the right one, guess who's in trouble? So all you got to do is just clear it before you leave. Now, once you get enough experience, you don't have to do that, but that's what you should do when you're new here and you don't have a lot of Landstar or hazmat experience, is let them help you, and there's no reason not to worry about it. And here's the next. Your next thing is going, well, hazmat freight doesn't pay enough for me to fool with it. Maybe not, but that might be the load that you need to make your week, or that might be the best load available. You don't really want to do it, but what if that's the only load that connects you to where you need to be? Why eliminate? It's just like dropping hook. People always talking about how you should have your own trailers. If we had our own vans here, half the freight we hauled wouldn't be available because it's drop and hook.
Yep.
So again, you have to use that BSC 9000 to go and leave the emotion out of it, okay? Because I'm not pulling hazmat. That's an emotional answer, not a common sense answer. There are times when you need to pull hazmat, because it's the best load out there that's available to you right now. And what's the downside? You have to take a few more minutes to put placards on it, or you got to do a better job of load securement that you should be doing to begin with.
Right.
No.
What's the average premium for hazmat loads in cents per mile? There's not
no
really
premium.
one.
There is no premium.
It
doesn't work like.
Well, I have seen it where I've called an agent and they'll say, well, there's two loads, and the hazmat one pays this and the non-hazmat one pays that. I have seen there be a $50 or $100 or $150 difference in hazmat versus non-haz coming out of the same shipper.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Drivers that work for fleets, okay, there's this expectation if I pull a hazmat load, I get an extra 50 cents a mile or whatever the number is, okay? It's a premium added to it because of what you're doing. When you come to Landstar, you are negotiating for the load as is. Whatever it doesn't, if it's got 10 stops, if it's got hazmat, you're negotiating for that load the way it's published, the way it's posted. You're not going to get the load and then add on another dollar because it happens to be hazmat. the load is offered the way it is. You either take it or leave it. There's no premium to it. So you got to kind of change the way you think about that. If the load is attractive to you at the price it is, and it happens to be a hazmat load, that's just what it is. You're not going to add more money to that load just because it happens to be hazmat.
Right. Juan Saldivar said, I'm guessing you're talking about getting the automatic restriction. He's got a comment here about take your truck to the local DPS office. So that's probably going back to what we were talking about, getting the automatic restriction removed. William Haynes, if you could, what books would you make required reading? Cool. The Box, the shipping container book by Mark Levinson. Probably 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What was that guy's name? Rich Dad, Poor Dad would be a good one. Dave Ramsey's, pretty much anything Dave Ramsey.
All of Larry Winget's books.
All of Larry Winget's books, yeah. Look, there's, truck drivers. Y'all don't have an excuse. Turn off sports radio for a minute. Turn off Howard Stern. My gosh, podcasts even are, there's some outstanding podcasts out there, like the one you're listening to, that have a lot of great practical, experience-based advice for you. But there's a lot of fantastic books. My litmus test of discerning which books are garbage and which books aren't. If any book you're presented with presents the state either in red form or blue form as the solution to the problem, throw it in a burn pile. If we'll just get the Republicans to do, we just need, no. Throw that in the garbage. But if it provides someone's history, life story, here's how I did it, here's how it worked for me, here's how it didn't work for me, those are the kind of books that you need, because one thing that I found about really good books is there's times that a really good book will zone you out because it activates some creativity in your brain, and then all of a sudden you realize you haven't listened to the last 10 or 15 minutes of the book and you have to go back because it activates something in you and it gets you thinking logically and creatively. That's the most important part, and I remember when I first started listening to audiobooks, probably 2011, it kind of becomes a skill. You have to sometimes consciously listen to the book or you'll zone out and realize that well, hell,
You know what my first audiobook I listened to in a truck was? Atlas Shrugged.
Nice. That's a good one.
It was 50 disc, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm like you. You catch yourself like zoning out, and you go, wait a minute, and you got to go back and try to find where you last remembered thinking, and I think it does take a little skill to do.
I think it was Zig Ziglar, because he was big back in the cassette tape days of all the sales and marketing programs that you could buy. But I think it was him that said, once you listen to something certain number of times, might have been 18, once you listen to this thing, you'll have it memorized,
Right.
Right. And I would highly suggest, Zig Ziglar stuff. I mean, his storytelling, it was so good to make, it had that Paul Harvey kind of experience for you.
Right. Exactly.
And I'll tell you, Mike Rowe did a book that was very much in the style of Paul Harvey, where he would be telling this story and you were thinking it was going one way, and then all of a sudden he'd yank you back the other way and go, oh my gosh, I never saw that coming. That's a really great book. Is your podcast available on Apple? Yes. If you go to our link in bio on TikTok or YouTube, you can click that link and it will take you to our podcast page. We're available on all podcast platforms. My favorite podcast app is Podverse, but we're everywhere.
I'll tell you something you should add to your list nowadays is anything to do with blockchain and crypto. Um, if
Oh
you don't
yeah,
understand it, start getting yourself prepared for it because that's the you're going to deal with it if you're going to stay in this industry. So
Carlton Sheets. Where am I hearing? Where somebody put? Who is Carlton Sheets? Big Chris 7709. I've heard that name before, but I can't think
I
of
have
where.
too. I'm trying to place it.
Carlton Sheets. Was that maybe one of those guys back in the 80s?
Well, I can look real quick and
Consult the Book of Knowledge, please. Carlton Sheets. I know I've heard that somewhere. The way I heard it by Mike Rowe. That's that.
The world's greatest wealth builder.
I guess he was one of those.
No down payment. Financial stuff, it looks like.
Okay.
Um,
Carlton Sheets was a real estate guy. Okay.
yeah,
That's where I've heard it before. Yeah, those.
Everything is real estate or financial in nature.
I took a job when I was 18 as a vacuum cleaner salesman. I'm going to let you go ahead and guess how that turned out. Not well for me. But a guy had given me a bunch of Zig Ziglar cassette tapes, and that was I was like 18. I had a $5,000 stereo and a $400 car, listening to Zig Ziglar.
You remember your first pad, your first apartment. You had a like you say, you had a stereo that probably cost thousands of dollars, and it's sitting on concrete blocks. You know.
Oh yeah.
Your coffee table was one of those big reels that they have electric cable on the string down the street.
Yeah. Yeah, I made the decision.
You could play some tunes, man.
I made the decision to move in with a cousin, and it was a house of horrors and whores, horrors and whores, both. Let's see.
The year that Sweet Home Alabama came out, the Leonard Skinner, I think it was second contribution. Anyway, Lee and my place, we had these two. They were like 6 foot tall speaker enclosures that a bass player would use in a band, and we had a big Marantz amp powering that thing. You could hear our stereo a mile away. I promise you could.
That's awesome.
And we're jamming Leonard Skinner and Sweet Home Alabama. It just came out. I remember that vividly, just like it was yesterday.
That's a long ass time ago.
It was a long ass time ago.
Well, let's see here. We're an hour and 37 minutes in. I'm looking. How will blockchain help a Landstar BCO? How will it help a Landstar? I'll tell you how. Blockchain is going to help us all. Now, blockchain, there's a possibility it could be the end of something like Landstar. But I want you to remember, Landstar is really a payment processing center. The agents do the work, the BCOs do the work. Landstar is kind of the referee. They're the central clearinghouse that everything goes through. But what blockchain is going to do is end double brokering. All right. Double brokering is over with a blockchain-based transportation system. It's going to increase efficiency where if you've ever looked at Sonar, the Freight Waves program that tracks outbound tender rejections and stuff like that, I think that blockchain is going to make it to where it's going to have trucks where trucks are needed and not have trucks where they're not needed. So I think it's going to take care of a lot of the dips and stuff. I think it can eliminate deadhead because we'll know where trucks need to be and where they don't need to be. And let's not send trucks where they don't need to be. So that's going to be the big thing. It's also going to help us all by eventually getting rid of the Federal Reserve. And so when a company like Yellow in 2020, is breathing its last breath, there's nobody to give them $700 million to set on fire, which is pretty much what they did. They took a $700 million check from the government and basically just burned it. Probably spent on hookers and blow and God knows what else.
Well, and another thing, it tightens up and secures the transaction. That's the big thing. As a BCO, what it could help you, well, number one, it probably will, um, you will identify what everybody wants right now is know who the good agents are and who the good BCOs
Hmm.
are. I mean, your reputation will be generated by blockchain, and you cannot immute it. So
It will.
it's
Well, wait a
going
minute.
to it's going
It
to
will be your reputation will be. Um, your reputation will be logged by blockchain. It will be.
it's transactional.
Yeah, because it provides a level of trust that has never existed before. I mean, think Google reviews. There was this guy went viral on TikTok last week because he takes his little baby to the urgent care because he'd had a fever for 3 days. And he was totally unimpressed with the level of care that he received. And he told this doctor, he's like, "You're kind of an idiot. Like, what are you talking about?" So they left, went to another urgent care. Well, he left a review on Google of what he thought about this doctor and the level of care provided. And 3 hours later, CPS was knocking on his door because this doctor lied and said the child was severely dehydrated. Now, of course, fortunately with social media, I mean, this doctor's screwed. I still don't think he's outed her. But take a situation like that. Okay, I have evidence of a transaction, and you have evidence of a transaction. Well, blockchain will help us find out what the truth is. And if you're a dirtbag, blockchain's going to make sure that you can never hide from it. And if you're a fantastic service provider, blockchain's going to make sure that everybody knows about it. That's the thing. So the dirtbags are in big, big, big trouble when it comes to blockchain. We just got to get there. Charles Coleman, like Lost Freight. Is that the TikTok guy, Lost FR8? I think that's a TikTok guy that I've been following that says some decent things. Landstar is a glorified factoring company in a lot of ways. Kind of. It's not anywhere near as expensive. But they are. It's very transactional. Everybody's paid off the same freight bill. An agent cannot, hear me clearly, an agent cannot, it is absolutely 100% impossible for an agent to put money in their pocket somehow, to screw over a BCO somehow. It is 100% not possible because the customer is issued a freight bill. The truck is paid off of that freight bill. The trailer is paid off of the freight bill. The agent is paid off the freight bill. Everybody is paid off of the exact same document. So they're absolutely 100%. I don't care what your buddy said. I don't care. I don't care your cousin. Well, our cousin was Landstar, and he said, listen, I know this is really hard for you to hear, but your cousin's an idiot, okay? Most of the stuff that he says didn't happen, okay? Probably made it up, or he heard it from some other idiot that made it up and it sounded good to him and it confirmed his existing bias, so he just repeated it, and then you heard it, and because it was your cousin, you believe it's true. But unfortunately, it's not true. So stop repeating that nonsense. This completes your public service announcement.
Well, it's Saturday night.
It is Saturday night. We've gone far enough. It's an hour and 43 minutes in. I don't see.
Couple of
much else.
reminders. Remember about Pittsburgh Power. Okay, call them, let them know you appreciate them sponsoring our podcast. And listen, if you got stuff you need done to a Cummins or a Detroit, get up there and talk to them. Great, absolutely great job. They also have they do a podcast every Tuesday with Kevin on Kevin's thing.
I think so. Yeah.
No, they're on they're Dave Nemo.
Dave Nemo,
every
right?
Tuesday.
They're on Dave Nemo
yeah.
with Sirius XM.
So so you can listen to them and hear their expertise. And then the other thing we'll remind you of is the last chance. This is it. There will need be no more discount codes after tonight. So if you want to get $100 off and come spend the weekend with us, um, then do it between now and midnight. And I hope to see a bunch of emails here in the morning. Well, actually at midnight, when you guys taking advantage of this. Because if you're going to come, you might as well save $100. That'll pay for your room. So,
Yep.
you know, just take advantage. You know, again, cost per mile. Lower your cost doing business. Take advantage of the $100, and after the night's gone. So, do you have
Yep.
the little slideshow, Chris? We could show real quick.
I think I do.
We'll show you a few little pictures from last year. We have a bunch of them on the website. If you really want to look at it, go to the website and look at the event. And we've got probably 500 pictures on there from last year. You might see people you know. Okay, there's William Haynes right there.
Yep. I don't know how to make that go any faster, but it's scrolling through. But that's it. That's what it looks like inside the room. TikTok, you guys aren't seeing this, but you'll be all right. Maybe
Go to the website and you can look at them. There's hundreds of them there. Okay, so yeah, that was our bunch last year. Great bunch. We do the podcast Friday night from the hotel, and we have a welcome reception that night there as well. We're gonna have some food for you, and then you guys are, you guys will have a great weekend. Breakfast hotel provides a breakfast, hot breakfast in the morning, and then we're going to bring in lunch, catered lunch on both days. And so
I've got that slideshow.
Rocky's going to be in the parking lot doing alignment starting on Thursday. So if you need to have your truck aligned or suspension work done, get a hold of Rocky, make an appointment, come to the event. He'll work on your truck outside. There's proof of it right there. If you're on TikTok, you can see it right now. And then our friend Chris Dolan from Cam's Truck and Trailer is going to be there doing minor things or any mechanical things you need to have done. If you want to put an OPS on, get with us and get one ordered. You can pick it up and have it put on there while you're there. If you need max mileage, you need OPS products, we'll have those there as well. So,
all righty. Well, use code Last Chance on the website to get $100 off of your admission to the event. And I guess that's it. I guess we'll see everybody next Friday night. We are good for Friday night, correct?
Yep. Well, I may be. No, you're not, unless your event is not Friday night.
No, I just can't. I've got to be with the boys during the day. But yeah, we'll be Friday.
Well,
night.
then we're probably going to be in West Virginia Friday night. So
that's true. All right, y'all. We will see y'all next week. Everybody be good and be safe. We'll talk to you next time.